Welcome to the Necronama.com, where we're spending all of October looking at 31 episodes of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. Today, we're looking at Treehouse number 4 from October 28th, 1993. I am James Sabata.
I'm Don Guillory.
And I'm Thomas Brungardt.
And we're here for the 31st episode of this. Oh, wait. No, it's the 4th. It just feels like the 31st one we've recorded. But we're doing this every single day, all month long, so that's exciting.
What are we talking about?
I don't know.
All of my notes are for the season 2 finale of Barry.
Uh-oh. You want a sub sandwich?
Wait, are we not doing the Halloween episodes of The Office? Because there are like 9 of them.
If we talk about all those at once, I think it'll work itself out.
Okay. Even the deleted scene.
Good God. So this one actually opens in a very fun way because Bart is doing Night Gallery. And Night Gallery was a fantastic show, much like Twilight Zone or any of those. But what I like about this one is every time Bart's about to tell us something scary, somebody else shows up to silence him. Because, you know, this was still very scary to the censors and Congress and my mom.
Well, it's always Marge, right? Always Marge who chimes in.
I don't know. I skipped all the intros. Don't you know that?
Well, Marge is just that weird suburban mom who's afraid of everything. You know? And it's the one... Marge strikes me... If Marge were a real person, she strikes me as the person who would show up to the Halloween party like, oh my gosh, you got skulls. I don't know if we can have skulls because then my kids are going to ask me about death, and then I'm going to have that conversation with them. And you know, she seems to me if she were a real person, we would all hate her.
So, 2 things really fast. Number 1, if she was a real person, I want to see how her hair stays that way. And number 2, when you said, "Oh no, you've got skulls," I was thinking about how people really have skulls in their head, and I was so confused there.
Well, my thought on it is one, James skipped the intro again, so you can mark that on your bingo card. But also,
damn it,
that we all knew that kid in like elementary school in like 5th grade when you have sex ed, and there's one kid who raises their hand and they say, "My mom doesn't want me to be in this class." That mom is Marge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not ready for this, according to my mom.
Well, for all of you who haven't taken sex ed, I'm going to walk you through this right now. Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
Who has the tumor?
It's not a tumor.
And it all ends with sexy results.
Think on sexy thoughts. Think on sexy thoughts.
Ooh, stupid sexy Dawn.
Hey. Gotta give the people what they want, man.
Every
Nothing
morning
like
I get a photo
quoting other
Dawn
episodes.
in a ski leotard.
Good Lord, this has gone very badly.
Well, should I get into Act 1?
I suppose, yes. Why not?
Act 1 is called The Devil and Homer Simpson. It begins with one of my favorite gags, a donut fashion show. It's like a Homer daydream while he's waiting to eat a box of donuts. And when he wakes up, there are no donuts left, so he goes back to his office in Sector 7G, and he opens the book, the manual for his donut, and it's gone because past Homer ate it, and he left an IOU, basically. And Homer makes a good joke, like, "Oh, bastard, he's always one step ahead of me." And then he makes a deal with the devil, who is Flanders, for a donut. And he is told that if he finishes the donut, he will have to give his soul to the devil. If he doesn't, then he doesn't have to. So he thinks, "Oh, I've outsmarted the devil. I'm not going to eat the donut." And then he ends up eating it in the middle of the night. And they have...
Because he's Homer.
Because he's Homer and he's an idiot. And then they have this trial over Homer's soul with all of these monsters of history at the 1976 Philadelphia Flyers. and it turns out that they rule that Homer's soul belongs to Marge, and the devil loses. What did you guys think of this one?
I like it. It's because it's got a lot of different things that come up as far as the classic what you'd sell your soul for, and even with the idea of the Simpsons themselves or the family dynamics of the Simpsons, that Marge is once again bailing Homer out, which you see it in several episodes where it's something that she's done to save him in one way or another.
I love this episode. It has one of my favorite moments ever in The Simpsons because I love Lionel Hutz. And Lionel is Homer's lawyer, and he goes to the jury, and he's like, but I ask you, what is a contract? Webster's defines it as an agreement under the law which is unbreakable. Unbreakable. And then realizes what he's done and uses the restroom where he climbs out the window and runs away. And I gotta tell you, like, it just makes me even more sad that Phil Hartman died because I loved Phil Hartman, and I would love to have seen what he would have done with Lionel over the years if he was still there.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't realize how much Phil Hartman was a part of the show as a kid, and then I remember when he was murdered, but I didn't realize the impact it had on shows like The Simpsons, because when you're a kid, you're not totally conscious of who's doing the voices. And that Lionel Hutz is such a great character throughout the whole arc of The Simpsons. And he has like Lyle Landley was such a great character too. And I think not being able to write for those characters really took its toll on the show, because the show, like, it's really depressing later on, as we might find out through the course of these episodes. But
I have a good feeling that this will always be on the up and up, and we'll always be excited to do this.
That was very Troy McClure of you there.
You might remember me from such episodes as 22. Anyway, continue.
I love this episode. This is like peak Treehouse of Horror, even though it's not Treehouse of Horror yet. It's still the Simpsons Halloween special, but this is like the sweet spot where they're telling stories in an effective way, and they're making smart jokes, and they're understanding like what they're doing. It has intent. It's not just a Halloween episode for the sake of a Halloween episode.
Right.
Like, Homer's doing stupid things. Like, he's eating a donut that he's not supposed to eat rather than just throwing it away and forgetting about it. Like, he puts notes around it that say, don't eat, like, he's just an idiot. And I love the little jokes where, like, Mr. Burns and Mr. Smithers are looking at the surveillance footage, and they're like, oh, who's that goat-legged fellow in Sector 7G? And they're like, oh, the Prince of Darkness, he's your 11 o'clock. Like, that's just quintessential Simpsons jokes to me.
What does he say? Something about I like his jib or something?
I like the cut of his jib. Yeah. Who's that goat-legged fellow? I like the cut of his jib.
That's fantastic. No, you just mentioned Lionel Hutz, kind of like how you couldn't write for guys like that anymore, and it really took a toll. And I looked it up while we were talking, and his last speaking role is season 9. Yeah. And that's really where you hit that spot where things kind of come down for a little while. And I think you've talked about this with us before, Thomas, about how I think it's 9, there's like this turning point. And then I'm sure we'll talk about it when we get there. But like, and the show sort of shifts. And I'm wondering if that's a big part of why, because you couldn't write for characters like that as much.
Yeah, I think you had the old guard of writers kind of leave, and then the new people stepped in. And it really changed the dynamic of the show. I think the sweet spot for the show is seasons 4 through 9. And then you get to 10, 11, 12, and it starts to get really weird where you lose the quirkiness and what made The Simpsons, and then it turns into kind of a different show that's, I guess, evolving with the time and changing for the audience.
All right. Here's what this episode means for me. And I mentioned this earlier with the kind of the drawing or the part of the story is as far as being based around this idea of selling your soul. And for Homer, it's a very Homer thing. I can't get any donuts at work. I have my emergency donut's gone. You know what? I'll just sell my soul for a donut, as opposed to, I don't know, going to the vending machine and possibly getting a packaged donut, or sending off for donuts, going to get some donuts. You know what? Because Homer himself, I mean, there's no snack he won't eat. I mean, in one episode or one season, he caramelizes his arm to snack on it, right? And it's just one of those things where obviously Homer is not thinking ahead and thinking about the consequences of what he's going to do, because even as he's eating the donut, he hasn't finished listening to what the devil has said as far as the ramifications of the decision. And then all of a sudden he's getting to that last bite. And he's like, well, if I don't finish this, then you don't get my soul. And at that moment he's smart. He outsmarts the devil, and it of course pisses the devil off. But you have this moment where you realize, like, okay, Homer has done something smart. He's gonna fuck it up. He always does. And my question to you is, I mean, this is a very Homer thing to sell his soul for a donut, but for either one of you, what would you sell your soul for?
Ooh, caught off guard by this. Thomas, would you like to go first?
There's an old Mr. Burns line where he's talking about his money, and he's trying to be endearing and philosophical, and he says, I'd trade it all for a little bit more. And that's how I feel. I feel like I would trade my soul for more souls. That way I could trade it more times over.
That's literally what I wrote down. I wrote 2 souls in giant letters, and then I drew a little pyramid scheme next to it.
See, we
were talking about this before the show, and I was like, "Oh, I have a great answer. Thomas better go first." Well, fuck me.
If I had more souls, it would be easier to row my imaginary boat to the island.
That's right.
John, what would you trade your soul for?
Oh, God.
Now every automatic door opens.
Well, I can't take the souls, and I can't take more wishes. You know what? I think I would outsmart the devil, and I would just say I would sell my soul to become the Prince of Darkness.
Ooh.
So now it's my job.
Can you take
way to one up us?
Yeah, wow.
But as far
we were so smart.
No.
If you're who's running hell?
It's kind of like the genie thing in Aladdin, as far as it gets to that third wish. Spoiler alert, and he frees the genie, right? So at this point, would the devil be okay with not having his kingdom of hell anymore?
Don, I'm going to ask you a racial question just for the sake of the bingo game.
Oh, Jesus.
Aladdin freeing the slave, or freeing the genie, is that an allegory for freeing the slaves? Is that an emancipation thing?
No, that's a fucking Disneyfication of the story. Speaking of Disney and freeing slaves, there's this horrible movie that they have that's called Song of the South. They completely ignore the institution of slavery and make people think that, oh, these black people were just working here. Fucking movie. And fuck anybody who loves it.
Work? So I have a real question. Do you guys think that if the devil played the devil instead of Flanders playing the devil, that Homer would still fuck with him the same way, or would he just eat the donut and this would be over?
Oh, he would fuck with him the same way.
Oh, you think so? I don't think he would.
He would fuck with him. Yeah. Because look, like he goes off on, he talks about, oh, I'm smarter than the devil. Right? And it's still one of those things like, oh shit, I better not finish this donut. He fucks with him when he's Flanders. He gets shocked because it's him, but it doesn't seem like that shock is long lasting to where he's really scared. I think he would still fuck with the devil.
I don't know how I feel. I could literally go either way on this, but I end up with I think he just eats the whole thing, but solely because it's Homer, and so I think that he would still care in that moment that it's Flanders, and that's why he doesn't care later. Because if he cared later, I think he'd be like, you know what, fuck Flanders, I don't have to eat this, but he doesn't. But I don't know.
All right, follow up from that.
We're never going to get to.
We'll get there.
Yes.
So, Homer gets sent to hell, before they have this trial and everything, right? And his punishment is to eat donuts, and he actually, they run out of donuts in hell to force feed him with this mechanical masticating machine that they create for him. right? He can never be satisfied with the donuts because he keeps asking for more. So the hell that they envision for him doesn't work. And again, I guess this is kind of like the soul question. What would be hell for either one of you? Or what do you think someone would envision or create for you that would be hell?
Doing 31 episodes of Treehouse of Horror in a row.
Whose idea was that?
Yeah. I was thinking, like,
yours! Mine would be a place where I'm always wrong and everyone can prove it, no matter what.
What if a place where you're always right, but nobody ever believes you? Which is just,
America?
I guess, that's just your life right now, I guess.
It's true.
And every day you tell me it's hell, so we already know what your hell is.
I got
It's not
corrected.
true. There's some days I try not to talk to you.
Go ahead, Don.
No, I was just saying, I got corrected by people on something I did one time. It was something I wrote, and they were like, no, that's not what he said. I'm like, I'm the person who wrote it. What are you talking about? No, that's not how it happened. I'm like, I'm the fucking person who wrote that. or my favorite, someone tried to tell me what I said in a TED Talk. I'm like, no, there's video.
Wow.
I'm the guy who did that.
I'm just glad it wasn't me.
No, God, no. I would have probably threatened you and joked about it, and we would have gone about our lives.
You know what I'm going to do?
I always wondered if I was serious.
I'm going to take your TED Talk, Don, and I'm going to deep fake James's face onto yours.
Oh, please do.
Please do.
That sounds amazing. I'll finally watch it. I don't remember saying any of this.
I tried watching it, but I hit the SAP button, and I didn't get a word of what you were saying.
Wow.
Hey. All clicks matter. Anyway, I don't know. I think the hell for me would be having to repeat the same thing every day.
Like a Groundhog Day
situation?
Yeah. No. I mean, seriously, like kind of like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, as far as the idea that you have to keep doing the same thing over and over again, or at least the day plays out the same. Now, there's some things that he finally figures out. Oh, I can do X, Y, and Z, and of course the day starts over fresh. But I would just have a problem with having to have the same fucking conversations with people over and over again. And I think that's one of the things that I don't like about small talk with people or interacting with people, when it's just this kind of, I guess these momentary situations that you have with someone where you're saying the kind of the canned phrases where it's kind of, I don't have anything to say to you.
No, like I totally understand what you're saying.
Are you like in a fight over there?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. Are you pounding on your desk or something? It sounded like there's like a karate fight going on. It was very crazy.
No, but there could be one. It's just like I was telling James the other day. Like, even I ran into a neighbor, and the thing is, I have nothing to talk to you about. I'm not one of those suburban people where, like, yeah, we need to know about each other and have fun and have a barbecue or block party or whatever's going on. I'm like, I'm going to check my mail. Leave me the fuck alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. Don't want to talk to anybody, definitely during a pandemic. So I'm going to go home.
Yeah, totally. The only reason I ever talk to neighbors is to make sure that they know what my name is in case they get my mail and they have to bring it to me. Like, this is my name. If you get something in my name, don't throw it away. Just bring it to me. Like,
you will bring it to me.
But like, going on what Don said, I agree. Like, I have never had a job in like the food industry or a factory or something like that, not because I don't think I would want to do it, but because I can't stand the idea of like making the same food every day, all day long, or assembling the same things all day, every day. It's the monotony and like the rote memory of it just, it feels so exhausting to me.
But it works for Homer, though.
It works for Homer. It's about all he can do.
So at the end of this, Homer is turned into a donut, and he eats himself, And then we pull out, and the police are standing outside waiting for him, holding cups of coffee, because they can't wait to eat him. And I just think it's great how nothing's changed.
Well, they were going to eat him. They weren't going to shoot him.
There's already a hole in him.
Oh, boy. I think we should move on to the second one.
Plus, it's not a chocolate donut, so... Anyway.
Beautiful. Skit 2!
Right.
You're up.
The second one, ladies and gentlemen, is...
Now that we've sucked the humor out of it like we're in season 11.
Quiet you. Terror at 5.5 feet. All right, so this one is a parody of the episode from Twilight Zone, or even one of the stories that's in Twilight Zone, the movie, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. In the episode, it was portrayed with William Shatner, and in the film version, it was portrayed by John Lithgow. Basically, Bart has a dream that he dies on the bus. He gets up to get on the bus, and it's a weird situation on the bus. It's raining. Skinner is riding the bus. Like, all these things that he doesn't want typically are taking place, and he's already nervous from his nightmare. There's at least a being, a demon, a gremlin on the side of the bus that he sees, and he can't convince anybody that this is tearing the bus apart. He eventually, after people think that he's crazy, he eventually gets the gremlin knocked off of the bus, and it gets run over by or hit by Flanders, who rescues it. But Bart, at least in being able to save everybody on the bus, or his understanding of saving them, everyone thinks that he's caused a problem. When they stop the bus, they see that the bus has been torn up. And of course, he tries to convince everybody again, I'm not crazy, I'm not insane. Gets wheeled off into the ambulance, and then we see the gremlin holding Ned Flanders' head, which is a great ending to this story. This one for me isn't great by any means. It's a good story to include because it fits within the horror Halloween tradition. And also using a very very familiar story as part of the Simpsons Halloween special, which eventually becomes Treehouse of Horror. Again, what do you guys think about this part of the episode, the story, the execution of it, or even the fact that there's a nice cameo by King and Kodos in this piece?
I've always liked this one. The whole part where he yells, "There's a gremlin on the side of the bus," and Otto swerves and takes out the car. That's just classic Simpsons for me.
Mm-hmm. Hans Moleman?
Especially, yeah, because Hans doesn't even hit the tree. That's the best part of it for me. He gets right there, and then it blows the fuck up, and I love that.
Yeah, it's like Gremlins and Ford Pintos were notorious for bad things happening.
Yeah, that joke and the joke where Martin is like, "Oh, thank God somebody's distracting from my shirt," and it's a Wayne computer shirt. That's a very Simpsons joke too. That, and when the window of the bus opens and completely depressurizes the cabin and they all go flying out. I always really like that. I this is a fun bit, especially since Flanders dies. You gotta love that. And it's just it's a straightforward story. It's just a recreation of something that's already been done, but they did it really well. They really understood the subject matter, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. And that is always one of my big concerns right there. That's why it's on the bingo card.
Well, so often they just name certain things, and it doesn't have anything to do with what it's supposed to be about, and it's frustrating, but this one is satisfying.
Well, all three of the sketches, the titles fit as far as the stories, but then also with the wordplay. I mean, going from Terror at 20,000 feet to Terror at 5.5 feet. It's a great adaptation of the title. Same thing with Devil and Mr. Simpson, the Devil and Homer Simpson. And even something simple like Bart Simpson's Dracula as opposed to Bram Stoker's Dracula.
What a good lead up into the third part of this.
You see what I did there?
Did I ever tell you about when I was a teenager and I was working on a book called Dick Stroker's Trampula? You see, she wanted to suck you know what? This isn't a good story. Never mind.
That sounds like some Skinamax stuff.
You'll be sucking your own blood tonight.
That's right. I don't know what that means. I'm not to that episode yet. So.
What episode?
I don't know. Let me just put my bingo card down. All right, so Bart Simpson's Dracula. So right before this, Bart comes back on and he says that the story that was supposed to be told was this painting from dogs playing poker, but it was far too intense. And I don't know, that's always cracked me up because my dad had a huge thing of the dogs playing poker in our basement. And so every time I would see it after that, like the rest of my life, like even long after he died, I was always like, it's too scary. Anyway, so they just threw something together with vampires. And that brings us into this wonderful parody of Dracula. And basically, the Simpsons go out to Mr. Burns' place, and it's in Pennsylvania. And Lisa begins to suspect that Mr. Burns is a vampire. The rest of the family thinks Lisa's stupid because, that makes sense. And then they basically they go through all this stuff that proves Burns is a vampire, like the fact that he sleeps in a coffin and drinks blood. Pretty big red flags to me. And then his autobiography, Yes, I Am a Vampire, with foreword by Steve Allen. And I love all these jokes that just blatantly, yes, he's a vampire. Like he's not even trying to hide it at all.
Right.
And I think that's just so fantastic. But so they convince the parents that the parents, whoever they are, Marge and Homer, I've never heard their names before, apparently. They convince them that they have to kill Mr. Burns. They stab this nice wooden stake through his dick because Homer gets it totally wrong. And, and then, Lisa, I don't know, everybody basically finds out that, they're all vampires. Yeah, you got to kill the head vampire, but it's not Mr. Burns, it's Marge, and I've totally lost my summary here. I'm doing a terrible job. I should re-record this later.
That about sums it up. No, I think you did an effective job.
Yeah. And then it ends with Hark the Herald Angels sing and James gets mad.
Yeah, I have a big problem with the ending because I think they had 3 good stories or 3 good sketches that they had to make up this episode, and then the Snoopy singing at the end, or the Peanuts, the Charlie Brown Peanuts singing at the end, it just kind of it pulls you back away from it.
I liked that bit, but I hated
that one.
I like Peanuts, and I've always liked that as a kid because we've talked about this before. But as a kid, I didn't really love the Halloween specials, and that Peanuts tie-in made me, laugh as a kid because I thought it was just random enough to be funny.
Well, that would have worked in whatever season that they do the Great Pumpkin parody. That would have been a great. That would have been a great tie-in. Like if at the end of that sketch, who was it, Tom Turkey or somebody who comes in, and if they had just all ran around and then all of a sudden they stop and they start singing because somebody summoned Santa Claus or something. I don't know.
Well, but then you run into that problem that they have in those future episodes we haven't watched yet, where they do a parody of Dr. Seuss or Hitchcock or a Kubrick, and they just throw every fucking thing into it, and it's just this medley of things. And I feel like if they did that for Peanuts, where they took something from every Peanuts thing, it would just be overkill. I
think you also hit they didn't know how long this was going to go, so they do these little things. And honestly, as weird as it is, and as much as I don't really care for it, there's so many episodes that end even worse than this.
That's true.
That it's kind of okay. But really, for me, this is the low point of this entire episode. Everything else in this episode is so great to me that this is my big complaint. And if this is my biggest complaint, they're doing pretty good, because we're going to hit some episodes where this would have been a very welcome addition to have anything to care about.
It should have ended with a callback to Homer pointing at the dogs playing poker. There's dogs still playing poker.
Oh, that would have been a great ending. Now I don't like this. I take back everything I just said.
I never like the ones where Marge ends up being like a vampire or a witch or something, because it's just a cop out. It's like, oh, we took the one adult female and made her the stereotypical Halloween character. But what I do love in this episode is the dynamic between Bart and Lisa, especially when Bart does his like Three Stooges things. That always makes me laugh. Where Lisa's just like, I've seen your Shep, I've seen your Curly. Like, let me figure this out. That always makes me laugh.
All right. So with respect to this sketch, Thomas, I know that when we discussed it before, we talked about this idea of, I mean, this is still the early 90s, the mid 90s at this point. And the show, some of the jokes that you have on the show at this point probably wouldn't be included now, 2015, 2020, and beyond. Because there's that moment where, I guess Mr. Burns, or the vampire Burns, is walking away and Homer says something about he has a queer hairstyle or queer hairdo. And, going back and I've been rewatching the series over the past few weeks. And it's one of those things I look at, I'm like, that joke would not work today. Nope, you couldn't play that one. You couldn't do this. You couldn't do that. And you just see that. And I think it's remarkable, one, to be able to go back at this and the jokes themselves could still work, but you see how they worked within their own time to where they obviously can't work now because of the connotation, or at least the awareness that we would have with the usage of certain language.
Yeah, and Homer for such a long time early in the series was very homophobic and not very understanding of people, I guess, and they had to get away from that, as society changed. But right. Homer at this time was very like 1950s and 60s ideologies, right? Like, it just, for him to make a joke about Burns's haircut being queer is very in line with Homer at the time. So I think that now it doesn't work, and people watching it now would be concerned about it. But at the time, I don't think anybody really, nobody I knew, nobody in my, I'm sure people were upset about it then, but not as upset as people, or as vocal as people are now about it, and who have the platform to go on Twitter and complain about Homer using the word queer.
Well, I just thought about this, because there's even stuff like that in shows like Everybody Loves Raymond, where they threw queer around. I don't know if it was, throughout the seasons, but I remember a few episodes they threw the word queer around, and they intentionally meant weird. It was somebody made a statement, and the response was like, "Why are you so queer?" or "God, you're so queer." And it was to point out that this person was corny, goofy, weird in some way. And, I think there's room with that type of term, where maybe in the early 2000s it probably still would have been used, but I think beyond that, it wouldn't have been. It would have been.
Well, yeah, there's like old terms like queer as a $3 bill. I don't know if you've ever heard that one.
Yes.
Like, you're going to queer the deal. Like, the word changes, the meaning of the word changes over. Like, the word gay has changed meaning over the years, and I think it's all about context. But the way Homer uses it in this is definitely derogatory.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What's our fascination with vampires, though? Because a lot of these stories themselves, not necessarily with The Simpsons, but a lot of stories, a lot of horror, Halloween stories, or movies, episodes, things like that, involve a lot more of a slant towards vampires than they do towards any other types of creatures, monsters, or classic, horror villains.
They look like us.
Yeah, they look like us, and they have that weird macabre kind of appearance that is creepy and scary to people.
Yeah, but it's like, it goes back to when Dracula was written, it was all a very xenophobic book. It was these people that look like us who are infiltrating and trying to turn us into one of them. And it's the same thing. Like, that's never gone away. I mean, look at the news today. And it's everywhere. Falcons. It's all the time. It's just
it's good one, Don.
Also, October 3rd is my favorite day. But so I feel like we're always going to be more obsessed with vampires because of that. We're always going to be obsessed with werewolves because it's about controlling the monster within yourself. Like these things are always going to be universal. Same with witches. Like, not necessarily witches in the green skin way, but like more like the Salem way, because it's something hidden among us that's a threat. And I think that's why these certain monsters are so universal. No, but why we always come back to them. And even mummies. Mummies represent death, and that's something that we're always going to be wondering about, you know?
Well, forgive me if we've talked about this before, but I wanted to bring it up again. When did the rules of fictitious monsters and creatures become definite? Like, when did it become a rule that the way to kill a vampire is to stake them through the heart? And
They're not.
But people take it so seriously to the point where there's people who actively prepare for a zombie apocalypse, and they prepare to kill them in ways that they're killed in films, as if that is the proper way as if zombies could even exist in the first place. Like, people take this as fact, and like, why do people take it so seriously? Is it to make the horror feel more real? Do they want to be scared to the point where it's a real life scenario?
No, I think it's the direct opposite. I think it's controllable.
I think I
know what to expect, so I don't have to be afraid, because these are the rules, and fear doesn't fucking follow rules. Fear distinctly breaks the rules, and that's the problem with it. Like, that's what makes us afraid of it.
But how stupid are you to have like a Humvee in the backyard with a zombie catcher on front as like your go vehicle?
Jedis have to have dicks.
Well, how else are they going to procreate?
The Metachlorians.
There's people that don't believe that those are okay either.
And why do lightsabers have the weight of an actual sword? Light doesn't weigh anything.
The real question with lightsabers is, why don't I ever get to see somebody looking down at the handle, trying to figure out how it works, and blowing their fucking head off when they turn it on? That's the real question. Somebody make me that movie.
Well, again, and I'm glad you brought up the idea of rules, James, or at least the way that rules, at least humans themselves adhere to the rules, but the understanding with any villain, any fear-based issue, the rules aren't going to apply, because there's not this moment where, you know, let's just say zombies do exist. Somebody shoots a zombie in the fucking head, and the zombie's like, oh shit, you got me. Or, you know, they're still going around and, you know, like, oh, you shot me. And the person says, well, I shot you in the head. You should be dead. Fucker, I'm already dead. You can't kill what's already dead. You know, to where movies like, what was it? Return Living Dead, they addressed that to where it was kind of like, no, you're wrong. Like, you can't stop these things. You know, you shoot it in the head, it keeps going. Like, there is no real way to stop this. But I think it's an issue with whether it's vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein's monster, whatever else is out there, right? It always comes down to this accepted belief in the way that you can stop whatever it is. And I forgot what I was watching, but it was talking about the vampire rules. And, you know, it was like, oh, you have to drive a wooden stake through their heart. And the person responded with, yeah, but you can kill a person that way too. So what makes a vampire special because you drive a wooden stake through its heart? You're going to be able to kill a fucking person the same way.
You've heard it here, everybody. Go try it on your roommate.
No.
This concludes another episode of the Necronomicon with James Sabata, Don Guillory, and Thomas Sexbot Brungardt.
Well, son of a bitch. It's a really good thing I didn't accidentally delete episodes 4 through 6 and we had to totally redo them, huh? Huh?